Hello ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for clicking on another one of my videos. I am Screen Scene Guru, and tonight I'll be discussing the Daredevil Born Again series on Disney+. I had a lot of anticipation going into the show. I was a big fan of the Netflix series. I didn't finish it for a long time until recently this year. I got caught up on season 3, getting ready for Born Again. But going into this show, I really liked the political tones they had with it. I thought it had a really big message they were trying to give people. So big shout out to Marvel Disney for that. With Kingpin being the primary villain of this season, we got some more villains issued in there with Crooked Cops being part of this anti-vigilante task force, as well as Muse was introduced. I thought he was kind of a weak villain. But we'll go into all of that in this video, guys. Going into the first episode, we've got Heaven's Half Hour. Matt Murdock gives up the mask after he loses his friend, Foggy Nelson, in a skirmish with Bullseye. We see him throw Bullseye off a rooftop, which makes him really question his faith. The whole title, the Born Again, because he tries to kill, which releases his inner darkness, his rage. So that's very interesting. We start off, it's a few years after the events of season 3, so kind of like a mini blip in a way, that we see Karen, Foggy, and Matt back again at Josie's, the bar, and then unfortunately Foggy's killed in the opening episode, which I thought bringing back Foggy Nelson and Karen Page, they would have more to do in the show, but actually they were relatively rarely reused, so that's interesting. Going into episode 2, we've got Optics. Matt Murdock gets a new client who's more than he claims to be, as Fisk learns the power of Optics. So we see Wilson Fisk getting settled in the mayor's office, changing things up, doing things his way, the way he thinks things should be done. So we see things changing there. We also see that, Matt takes on a new vigilante client, the White Tiger, which I thought was a really cool representation for, Spanish, Latino superheroes, with a lot of them besides Moon Knight and, a couple others that they've, kind of, Disney Plus has had their way with those characters, and some people don't like that. But going into White Tiger's character story, he does have a run-in with these, cops that are harassing an informant, where unfortunately one of the cops gets pushed onto a train rail while the train's coming, and they try to, railroad Hector Alea, and they end up charging him, and he gets off. He gets, free off his charges, which is very good. But unfortunately, we see some of the cops are waiting for him. But going into episode 3, we got the hollow of his head. The trial of Hector Alea begins. Fisk's old business associates seek to claim his vacant mantle. So we see the mafia associates of Fisk, now that Vanessa isn't paying them off, they're starting to circle the rounds and try to take him out, which we see interesting. He uses Vanessa to get several of them to come to locations where he's able to take care of them. So that's really cool. Going on to episode 4, we've got Sic Semper Simpa. Not sure if I'm saying that right, but Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk's darker halves fight to be unleashed. We also got to see Frank Castle in this episode for a brief moment. Not really get to see what he's doing besides his new compound, which seemed to be in an abandoned train yard. Similar to Muse, when we get to see Muse finally for the first time. Going on to episode 4, With Interest. A day in the life of Matt Murdock gets unexpectedly intense, forcing him to team up with a familiar face. Let's see. So after he gets to encounter the bank robbery episode, which was episode 5, with Kamala Khan's dad from Miss Marvel, We get to follow up with episode 6, which is Excessive Force. We get to see Matt again in the iconic Daredevil suit, which is awesome to see. A small serial killer terrorizes the streets of New York. The city needs a savior, so this is the Muse episode. Very violent for Disney Plus, so I give a shout out, props for that. But I thought the Muse character could have been used a little bit better. Specifically, his methods for why he was a serial killer. They never explained, besides just the fact that he was crazy, and that he didn't like Kingpin. He didn't like Wilson Fisk as mayor, so his murals were, politically charged. That's why the mayor was real adamant about cracking down on vigilante actions. Going on to episode 7, we've got Art for Art's Sake. Daredevil is back and races to stop Muse before he can kill again. Fisk's rivals in the criminal underworld take advantage of the chaos, so some more craziness going on in New York. We get to see, people like the Swordsman appear. I believe that was Kate Bishop's stepdad from Hawkeye. We see a bit of him, saving people in the street. Different clips being shared on the internet. So that was very interesting. We also got to hear about from, Daredevil's inner struggle. Matt's, struggle to put the mask away. He keeps on seemingly having to whip it out to, go after Muse and save Hector Alea's niece from being killed. So that's very cool. We got to see that. Episode 8, we got Isle of Joy. Let's see. At his individual black and white ball, Mayor Fisk tightens his grip on New York City as Matt Murdock learns shocking information when an old enemy reaches out. So we get to hear back from Bullseye. Bullseye is trying to get out of prison by seeking, legal aid from Matt, of course, given that he's a defense attorney, lawyer. So very interesting stuff, given that he killed his best friend, but he was being used as an assassin, to get Vanessa's dirty deeds done. So he's claiming, let me out, give me my freedom, and I'll turn over the state evidence on Fisk. So very interesting stuff there. Going into the series finale, episode 9, we got Straight to Hell. Mayor Fisk becomes Mayor Kingpin, and Daredevil is unleashed as chaos takes over the city. This is the iconic Blackout episode. This was in the comic books, where the city goes dark. They claim that, it was vigilante activity that led to the blackout, but this was, Kingpin turning the lights off, shutting the bridges down after his attempted assassination, which I thought was very interesting. And that, Daredevil took the bullet for Kingpin. And I think this was kind of a message because Daredevil didn't want Kingpin to get bigger than he already was. Basically, he didn't want to become a martyr or get more of a following, even though he's got this, vigilante task force of these former police officers. The commissioner mentions they're the worst of the worst. Cops that should not have badges, basically, no longer have body cameras, and they're part of this anti-vigilante task force going after not only Daredevil, but we're assuming every vigilante, which is a very interesting way to end the series, given that we just had Thunderbolts happen in New York City and the government appointed new Avengers. So I kind of wish Kevin Feige would get his head out of his ass when it comes to continuity, because he keeps on wanting to do this thing where he splits the TV shows and the movies. So I'm hoping that, eventually they'll do this thing where they'll connect them all and say they're in one big happy universe. I mean, that's kind of what Disney Plus was incentivized as, but now we're seeing they're moving away from that, given that, we're not going to see movie actors in Disney Plus shows anymore. I did a story earlier about Paul Bettany in the Vision Quest series. He's going to be the last movie star actor in a TV show for Disney Plus, which I thought was an interesting flex, but given that Marvel is doing some very interesting, questionable things right now. Like moving the Doomsday release schedule, Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars by 6 months. It's not a big change, but a lot of people are saying, they were in May, and now it's in December, which that seems to be the next big, launch off the seasonal theater timeline. They pushed Star Wars to December, and that was very good success for them. They pushed Avatar to December, and then that was very successful for Avatar Way of Water. So it looks like they're doing the same with Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. This is just speculation, but a lot of interesting stuff going on in the movie realm. Space. I did really like the message overall that we came away from watching this Daredevil Born Again series, was that the city of New York is stronger than one mayor, and overall the country is stronger than a president, to resist, rebel, rebuild. That was really cool. I liked the music in the outro, the Radiohead Everything song being played. That was really cool. But like I said, the continuity, they got to get something going on here, because I was just reading an article the other day saying Kevin Feige doesn't feel like the Disney Plus series belong on the big screen, or their events don't coincide with the movies, which that needs to be addressed, because if you're going to have the new Avengers team from Thunderbolts in New York City and no Kingpin there, that throws a big hole in your story, in my opinion. But not a lot of people watched Daredevil Born Again, which is surprising, given that it took 6 to 7 years to build up from the Netflix series being over for them to reboot it on Disney Plus, but yet they still didn't get it on the Nielsen charts. They haven't been able to get a lot of these Disney Plus shows off the meager, minor streaming numbers. So that's unfortunate to see, but I did really like this show. If you guys are interested in checking it out, I highly recommend it if you have a Disney Plus account subscription. I do have some movie news to go over real quick, so I'll go into my notes real fast. We did hear that Last of Us has been renewed for a 4th season, guys. This is really exciting news. The showrunner has described the series as not being over after season 3. They will have more story to tell. So that's very interesting, given that there's only 2 video games, that they're adapting the second video game into season 2 right now, but they said the story for season 2 will be multiple seasons, so that's very fascinating. Going on, we've got the character Bix from Andor. Ardia Adoria is talking about being in her own Disney Plus series, which is very interesting. We have yet to hear when that is going to be coming out, but we're assuming that might be after the Mandalorian movie in 2026. Going on, we've got the announcement of Street Fighter, the movie, happening with Jason Momoa and Roman Reigns, which is very exciting, from WWE. Going on, we've got interesting news about Michael Douglas leaving Marvel. He no longer wants to work for the MCU. He said that he's done with the green screen movies, is what he's claimed the MCU has been in his career. He wants to go back to doing other things, which is very interesting. I really liked his iconic portrayal of Hank Pym as Ant-Man, the original Ant-Man, if you will, because I didn't like Scott Lang's character in the movies that much. He was a character specifically designed for the movies. He wasn't in the comics, so I thought that was an interesting thing for them to do, but sad to see Michael Douglas will not return to the MCU. We've got the Rambo reboot, apparently, happening without Sylvester Stallone, so that's very interesting, controversial, that Sylvester Stallone's IP is going on without him. He has been griping on the internet about it for the last few years, especially with them moving on with Creed as well. Like I said, Avengers Doomsday was pushed 6 months. Not that bad. We're still getting it in 2026. It's just we're getting it in December, so the holiday season instead of May. We got new announcements on Spider-Man 4, just some grounded villains like Scorpion being teased about being in there. We also got, I believe they have his name as Copperhead, which I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a Serpent Society villain or what. And then we also have the announcements of the new Netflix series. Let's go into our Netflix charts real quick. So a lot of big shows they've got going on Netflix I've been noticing. Black Mirror is up there. I've done a couple of reactions for Black Mirror on the channel already. They've also got Sirens, which is an original series with Melly Alcock, who's going to play our new Supergirl. This was recently dropped on Netflix. I started watching it, but I didn't quite get into it. It's a very interesting show there on Netflix, Sirens. If you guys haven't heard of it, check it out. Going into some others, let's see, I just want to talk about a few. The Residence is pretty good. Murder Mystery in the White House. That's fascinating. They've got a new season of Love, Death, and Robots that's out as well. I believe that's season 4. So that's exciting. Let's see what else they have. Okay, here you go. Adolescence. That's another really big one that my mom watched. I have not personally watched it. It's about, kids on the internet, basically using this trolling and, abusing young girls. I thought it was very interesting that they talk about incels and different topics like that for this really young age kids to be, super violent and upset about different things in their communities. So I thought that was fascinating to talk about, just given that it was a lot of interesting stuff in that show. We got child murderers and different things like that. So if you're into the murder mystery, stuff like that, Adolescence is a good one on Netflix. Let me see. Going on. I want to get some good ones in here, because they've got a lot of stuff on Netflix, to admit. And it's been a while since I've watched stuff besides Black Mirror and other things. Let's see. Raw. WWE Raw is doing really well on Netflix. It's still top 10 charting. If you guys are watching Raw, I haven't been covering it as much. I've been kind of falling behind in the episodes, but I definitely need to catch up. Pulse as well, I'm hearing, is a really good medical drama on Netflix. It's basically rivaling The Pit on HBO. So Pulse is a really good one if you guys are into ER or Grey's Anatomy, stuff like that. Let's see what else. Is there another show? I want to see there's like one more I wanted to discuss real quick. Let's see if they have any more. Oh. Okay. Let's see. Oh, Squid Game is coming out with a new season. That's what I was looking for. The Korean original horror, fantasy-inspired action drama. Squid Game is returning for, I believe, its 3rd season, or if it's not season 2, part 2. I'm not exactly sure what they're on right now. I haven't been watching the show, but I just do want to update that there is going to be new Squid Game coming out for people that are enjoying that. But this is going to be me signing off the show. I hope you guys enjoyed the coverage of all the movie topics I discussed and the coverage of Daredevil Born Again. Let me know down below in the comments what you guys' thoughts are on the news. Make sure to like the video, follow the channel. You can subscribe if you like. You can follow me on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Scene Screen Guru. I appreciate all the support. Until next time, guys, that's me signing off. Ciao. Have a good one.